It stood like a fortress at the end of a long, winding drive, the Grant estate. Cedar Hill had been in the family for 3 generations, perched atop a cliff in upstate New York, overlooking the Hudson River, an image of success, legacy, and privilege. But by the winter of 2018, it became something else. A crime scene. Detectives would later say that the snow muffled the screams. Neighbors assumed the flickering lights were just power surges from the storm. No one imagined that inside, one of the wealthiest families in the region was being slaughtered, one by one. And at the center of it all was a will. The patriarch, Charles Grant, 78, had built his empire from scratch. From a small law office to a national chain of legal services, he turned shrewd decisions into generational wealth. A calculated man, planner, he left nothing to chance, especially not his $5 million estate. But Charles was also a man of secrets, a second family, a hidden investment portfolio, and a final will that no one saw coming. Thanksgiving 2018. It was the first time in years that all the Grants were under one roof. There was Eleanor, Charles's cold, image-obsessed wife. David, the eldest son, a failed tech startup CEO drowning in debt. Anna, the daughter, a schoolteacher turned caregiver after her divorce. And Michael, the youngest, charming, brilliant, and suspiciously absent from the family for 5 years. They came for family. They stayed for money. None of them knew it would be the last time they'd all be alive. 2 weeks later, Charles was dead. The death certificate read heart attack. No autopsy, no questions. But when the will was read, it sent shockwaves through the family. Charles had cut out Eleanor, left David a measly $10,000. Anna received custody of the estate's horses, nothing more. And Michael? He got everything, every penny. The twist? Michael didn't even show up to the reading. No one knew where he was, or if he was even still alive. The housekeeper heard it first, a glass shattering, then a scream. Eleanor, once poised and composed, destroyed the study with a fireplace poker. He was supposed to change it back, she sobbed. He promised me. What she didn't know was that Charles had already been receiving threats. Anonymous letters, voicemails warning him to rewrite the will or else. Police found them weeks later, hidden in a locked drawer. But by then, the body count had already started to rise. On December 12th, David Grant was found dead in his penthouse bathtub. The scene looked like a suicide: pills, whiskey, and a handwritten note. But something didn't add up. His fingerprints weren't on the glass. The pills were crushed, not swallowed. And the note? Forensically traced to a different pen than the one in his apartment. To the untrained eye, it was an overdose. To detectives, it was staged. But staged by whom? Anna vanished on Christmas Eve. No note, no goodbye. Her car was found at the edge of a frozen lake, keys still in the ignition. Everyone assumed suicide, grief, depression, guilt. But her phone pinged from a motel 80 miles away 2 days later. When investigators arrived, they found the room ransacked and a trail of blood leading to the parking lot. She didn't run. She was taken. Then came the break. Grainy surveillance footage from a gas station. A man in a hoodie, wearing gloves, paying in cash, driving Anna's car. First, no one recognized him, but facial recognition narrowed it down. It was Michael Grant, the heir, the golden boy, the one who had everything to gain. A financial analyst hired by the Grant family attorney discovered something else: a secret Swiss account. $3.2 million transferred from a Cayman Island shell corporation, 48 hours after Charles's death. Guess who it was tied to? Michael. But there was one major problem. Michael had an alibi. He'd been living off-grid in Thailand since 2016. Passport stamps, rental records, witnesses. So how was he showing up on camera back in the US? It was a private investigator, not the police, who made the connection. A man named Lucas Dean, ex-con, master of identity fraud, born 3 towns over from the Grants, grew up obsessed with them. He looked just like Michael. When Lucas was arrested in early January, he had Anna's earrings in his pocket and David's phone hidden in his sock. But that wasn't the final twist. Lucas Dean sat in the interrogation room with a smile that chilled the air. He didn't deny being at the Grant estate. He didn't deny posing as Michael. "I was just collecting what was mine," he said. But there was no legal claim, no family tie. So what did he mean? He wouldn't say. Not yet. Instead, he asked for coffee. And his lawyer. Investigators searched Lucas Dean's apartment. What they found was disturbing. Walls covered in photographs of the Grant family, dating back to 1995. Newspaper clippings, social media printouts, even a childhood school yearbook of Michael's with his face circled dozens of times. Lucas had been watching them for decades, studying them, becoming him. Just when the case seemed to be closing, it exploded again. The family lawyer unearthed a second will, dated only 1 week before Charles Grant's death. This one named no heirs, only a charitable trust. It was unsigned, unwitnessed, but typed on Charles's personal laptop. The forensics team found evidence of tampering, and someone had accessed the file remotely. Someone using Lucas Dean's alias. During a search of Cedar Hill's old wine cellar, detectives found a hidden trapdoor. Below it was a concrete chamber, cold and windowless. Inside were bloodstains, a cracked pair of glasses, and a video camera. When the tapes were reviewed, one thing became horrifyingly clear. Anna hadn't died. She had been imprisoned. And the footage? It showed Lucas bringing her food, talking to her, asking her to forgive Michael. In February 2019, after months of silence, the real Michael Grant resurfaced. He flew in from Bangkok and turned himself in to the FBI voluntarily. His passport, bank activity, and former landlord all backed his story. "I left to escape them," he said of his family. "I wanted nothing to do with the money." But when he saw the news, when he saw his own face on security footage, he knew he had to come back. And when he saw the basement tapes, he broke down. Anna was alive, somewhere, or had been. Recently, the case against Lucas Dean was fast-tracked. Charges: kidnapping, murder, identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. But what prosecutors couldn't prove was motive. Why had Lucas chosen this family? Why go so far? The answer came out on the stand. Lucas wasn't just obsessed with the Grants. He believed he was one. Court records introduced a shocking detail. Charles Grant had once represented a woman named Margaret Dean in a wrongful termination lawsuit in 1981. 9 months later, she gave birth to a son, Lucas Dean. No father was listed on the birth certificate. Could Charles have been the father? If so, it made Lucas his illegitimate son. And in Lucas's mind, that made him the rightful heir. Michael voluntarily submitted his DNA. Prosecutors matched it with Lucas. Result: half-brothers. Same father, different lives. Charles Grant had erased his secret son, hidden him from the will, denied his existence, and in a grotesque twist of fate, that hidden legacy came back to destroy everything. Lucas refused to say where Anna was, only that she forgave me before the end. But a second look at the tapes revealed something. Anna had been leaving marks, scratches on the wall, faint, methodical. When enhanced, they formed coordinates, GPS markers, a hidden cabin in the Catskills. Authorities rushed there. What they found was shocking. The cabin was silent, empty, but a trapdoor in the floor led to a second room. And inside was Anna Grant, alive, barely, malnourished, dazed, but breathing. She had survived 73 days underground. Her first words to the officer: "Did he kill them all?" Anna's return was hailed as a miracle, but what she had to say chilled the courtroom. She described the weeks in the basement, how Lucas treated her like a replacement for the family that never accepted him. "He kept saying I was the only one who didn't look at him with hate," she whispered. "He thought if I understood his pain, I'd choose him." But Anna never broke. She kept fighting, and she never gave up hope that someone, anyone, would come looking. While cataloging Lucas's belongings, detectives found a small wooden box. Inside were 4 items: Charles Grant's monogrammed cufflink, a silver cuff bracelet belonging to Eleanor, David's watch, a lock of Anna's hair. It was a killer's keepsake, tokens from each of his family members. Except Eleanor wasn't officially confirmed dead. Not yet. Eleanor Grant had vanished after Charles's death. Presumed reclusive, maybe hospitalized. But there was no hospital record, no funeral, no witnesses. Now, with Anna rescued, investigators reopened the question. Where was Eleanor? A tip from a former groundskeeper led them to an old, unused greenhouse on the Cedar Hill property. Beneath a flower bed of wilting roses, they unearthed her body, wrapped in the family crest flag. Face untouched, lips sewn shut, Lucas had buried her with reverence. For weeks, Lucas refused to cooperate, until one night he asked for a tape recorder and began to talk. His monologue was cold, detached, obsessive. They erased me, he said. Every year, they lived their perfect lives while I watched from motel rooms. I deserved more than silence. And then came the chilling final line. I didn't kill them for the money. I killed them for forgetting me. With the truth surfacing, journalists dug deeper into Charles Grant's past. Whispers of hush money settlements, illegitimate children, abuse of power. It became clear Charles wasn't the hero the public once thought. He built his empire on secrets, and in doing so, seeded his own destruction. One headline said it best: "The will that buried a dynasty." Though innocent by law, Michael carried a weight of shame. "I should have never left," he said in an interview. "Maybe if I'd stayed, they'd still be alive." He visited Anna daily during her recovery. Their bond, once distant, grew strong. They were the last two standing, not just siblings now, but survivors of a shared war. And the money? Michael declined it. "I don't want a dollar soaked in blood." Lucas's defense leaned on mental illness, childhood abandonment, identity crisis. But Anna's testimony, the DNA, and the trophies sealed the verdict. When the jury foreman stood, the silence was thunderous. On all counts, we find the defendant guilty. Lucas didn't flinch. He only looked at Michael and smiled. Lucas Dean was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Anna watched from the front row, her hand in Michael's. She cried, not for Lucas, but for the family that would never sit at the table again. Justice had come, but it came with scars. The estate, once a crime scene, was donated to a non-profit trauma recovery foundation in Anna's name. Rooms were converted into therapy centers. The wine cellar was sealed off permanently. Where darkness once ruled, healing began to take root. Michael and Anna agreed to one final act. They dissolved the Grant fortune. Every cent, all $5 million, was split among victims of identity theft, wrongful convictions, and family violence charities. They chose to end the cycle, to stop the bloodline from ever bleeding again. 6 months after the trial, Anna Grant began writing. Her memoir, Erased, Surviving the Family I Loved, became a bestseller within weeks. It wasn't just a chronicle of the crimes. It was a raw, emotional dissection of what it meant to be trapped in a family built on silence, secrets, and suppressed truths. But most hauntingly, she wrote, "He didn't just take their lives. He rewrote our family. He turned legacy into tragedy and gave me a story I'll never stop reliving." Michael received it on a rainy Tuesday. A letter, no return address, no signature. Inside was a single sentence, written in slanted, uneven ink. "You may have gotten the name, but I'll always have the blood. Lucas Dean." Even behind bars, his obsession hadn't ended. But Michael didn't respond. He shredded the letter and burned the pieces. In May 2020, construction crews renovating the Cedar Hill stables discovered a hidden compartment in the hayloft. Inside was a journal, Lucas's journal. Pages upon pages detailed every member of the Grant family. Routines, voices, food preferences, fears. But one entry stood out. "There's one more. She's out there. She has the eyes. She'll know me when she sees me." Was it fiction, paranoia, or something far more terrifying? A private investigator followed the lead, tracing birth records connected to Charles Grant. And then, a match. Emily Sinclair, age 27, adopted, grew up in Oregon. No idea who her birth father was. A DNA test confirmed it. Charles Grant was her biological father, which meant Lucas was right. There was one more. Anna flew to Portland to meet Emily. It was tense, emotional. Emily had no idea the horror she was tied to. No idea that a man who claimed to be her half-brother had murdered an entire bloodline to claim a fortune she never wanted. She cried when Anna told her everything. "I don't want any of it," she whispered. "I just want peace." News of Emily's existence leaked. Within days, a prison guard intercepted a coded message in Lucas's cell. He was trying to contact her. He'd drawn her portrait from memory, a face he'd never seen. He wrote underneath, "I knew I wasn't alone." That night, Lucas Dean attempted suicide. He survived but never spoke again. Michael made the decision quietly. He legally changed his last name. From Grant to Wells, his late mother's maiden name. Anna did the same. "I don't want my children to carry that name," she said. "They deserve a future untouched by what came before." The Grant legacy officially ended, not in scandal but in choice. Emily returned to Oregon, declining all media requests. She deleted her social media accounts, changed her phone number. But every Christmas, she sends a card to Anna. No words, just a painting, always of a tree, half in shadow, half in light. A quiet reminder. She's watching, healing, and choosing not to follow the darkness. Each year, the Wells family hosts a dinner at Cedar Hill, now converted into a trauma retreat center. One chair is always left empty. No one sits in it. No one speaks of it. It's not for Charles, not for Lucas. It's for all of them. Everyone lost to silence, greed, and inheritance turned evil. A symbol, a warning, a legacy rewritten in truth. In the end, it wasn't the court that delivered justice. It wasn't the verdict, not the sentence, not even the confessions. It was survival. Anna, Michael, Emily, they lived. They chose to break the pattern, to give back the blood money, to tear down the pedestal the Grants had been placed on for decades. And in doing so, they erased the erasure. Lucas Dean was silent for over a year. No words, no contact, just a blank stare at the wall in his maximum security cell. But on the anniversary of Charles Grant's death, he snapped. He screamed for hours, Anna's name, Michael's, even Emily's. Guards found him covered in scratches, muttering, "They forgot me again." Even in prison, Lucas was haunted, not by guilt, but by irrelevance. A popular true crime podcast aired a 6-part series called The Forgotten Grant, framing Lucas as a neglected victim turned monster. It went viral. Millions tuned in. But Anna was furious. "He's not a victim," she told a journalist. "He made himself a predator." The podcast sparked public debate. Was Lucas Dean insane or calculated? The line between madness and malice blurred. Again, Emily's quiet life began to fray. She noticed a man following her car. Strange phone calls with no voice. A single white rose left on her doorstep. The police traced the phone. It led to a prepaid burner purchased near Lucas's prison. He couldn't have left, but someone else could have. A copycat? Or worse, a follower? An anonymous Reddit user posted under the handle @GhostOffCedarHill. They shared unreleased crime scene details, ones only law enforcement or Lucas himself would know. Were these posts written by Lucas? Or was someone leaking from inside? The FBI opened a cybercrime investigation. But the posts stopped after one final message. A new inheritance is coming. Amid the chaos, Anna shared unexpected news. She was pregnant. The world celebrated. But Anna was torn. "I'm bringing a child into a bloodline soaked in horror," she confided. Michael reminded her, "You ended the cycle. That's your legacy now." It was the first time in years she felt hope stronger than fear. In an attempt to protect her child's future, Anna did something drastic. She submitted the full Grant DNA profile to an ancestry database. Her goal? To map every living relative, to ensure no shadows remained. The results revealed one shocking match. a half-brother. Not Lucas, not Michael, not Emily, the fourth child. Another secret, living in South America, name redacted, identity sealed. The man was located, Daniel Rivera, age 43, an accountant in Argentina. He had no idea who Charles Grant was, no interest in money, and he wanted nothing to do with the case. But Anna flew to meet him anyway. "I just wanted to look in his eyes," she said, "to know if he had that same shadow." He didn't, just kindness and grief. 3 years later, Michael, Anna, Emily, and Daniel returned to the Cedar Hill estate, now transformed into a trauma and recovery center. They held a private ceremony beneath a newly planted tree, for names engraved on a single stone: Charles, Eleanor, David, and Lucas. Forgiven, not forgotten. They laid a second stone beside it. From inheritance came destruction. From truth, we found each other. Anna gave one last interview, not to a journalist, not to a news crew, but to a young girl, a student writing a thesis on family legacy and trauma. The interview ended with a single question: "What would you say to Lucas now?" Anna paused. "I'd say you didn't erase us. You made us rewrite everything. And that was your greatest mistake." The Wells Foundation, named after their mother, now runs 7 trauma centers nationwide. Each one bears a plaque at the entrance. Legacy is not what we inherit. It's what we choose to leave behind. Anna's daughter was born on a crisp autumn morning. She named her Hope, and so the story that began with blood and betrayal ended in healing and light. 6 months after Anna's final interview, an anonymous source mailed a set of unmarked VHS tapes to a true crime blogger. The tapes were old, dated, grainy, but the subject was unmistakable: Lucas Dean. Each video was labeled with a date, each one recorded during his early therapy sessions in juvenile detention. And each one showed something no one expected. Lucas wasn't always cold. He cried. He begged to be loved. He drew pictures of a family: a smiling father, a warm mother, a baby sister. He wanted what he never had. But somewhere in those tapes, something changed. The drawings became violent. The tears stopped. And the last tape, it ended with one chilling line: "If no one wants to remember me, I'll make sure they never forget me." For years, Anna had kept herself composed, strong, purpose-driven. But one rainy afternoon, alone in her apartment, she found herself frozen. Her hands trembled. She heard a door creak, though no one was there. Her mind raced with the scent of the cellar, the sound of Lucas's boots, the feel of rope on her wrists. That night, she collapsed. Michael rushed her to the hospital. Diagnosis: post-traumatic relapse. Even after justice, trauma lingers. Michael, too, had changed. He began digging deeper into the family archives: blueprints, diaries, receipts, even Charles's college journals. The further he read, the more disturbed he became. Charles had been obsessed with legacy. In one letter, he wrote, "Blood means everything, and those without it deserve nothing." He realized Charles wasn't just a flawed man. He was cruel. He believed family was earned, not given. Michael saw it clearly now. Lucas wasn't just born into darkness. He was shaped by it. Anna revisited her time in the cellar through hypnotherapy. For years, her memory had blocked out a 3-week window. But slowly, the details returned. Lucas hadn't just held her captive. He made her celebrate Christmas with him. Fake snow, paper decorations, even a cardboard tree. He gave her presents: books, candy, and a framed photo of himself. "I made a family," he whispered. "You're all I need." Anna screamed for days afterward, not because she feared him, but because, for a second, she almost believed him. A new journalist traced down a woman named Marie Denton, a former nurse who worked at the Rosehill Mental Institution, the place where Lucas's biological mother was once committed. Marie revealed the truth. Lucas's mother didn't die in childbirth. She was killed by Lucas's father. And worse, Charles Grant knew. He had paid for her burial. Quietly, discreetly. When Marie reached out to Charles years later, begging him to meet his son, His reply was cold. "That boy has nothing to do with me." The rejection was the first domino. In a safe hidden behind a Grant family portrait, Michael uncovered an older version of Charles's will, written long before Lucas's name was removed. In it, Charles wrote, "Lucas will never be part of this family, but I will give him the means to make his own way." He had left him $50,000 in a private trust, but that trust was never executed. Why? The lawyer assigned to oversee it had been paid off by Eleanor. She made sure Lucas got nothing. Michael opened Cedar Hill's library to the public, only to discover something shocking hidden behind a false wall. Boxes of letters, unsent, unopened, unread, all from Lucas. For over 10 years, he had mailed letters to the Grant estate. Letters full of longing, apologies, and rage. They were never opened, never even delivered to Charles or Eleanor. Anna read one aloud during a memorial event. "Dear Father, I learned to tie a tie today. You taught me even if you didn't know it. Are you proud? Would you be? I don't know, but I still try. Lucas." The crowd sat in stunned silence. A security guard at Cedar Hill reported something strange. Every month, on the full moon, someone visited Lucas's grave, though it was unmarked, hidden near the edge of the woods. Flowers, handwritten notes, once a slice of birthday cake. The guard never caught the visitor. Only once did he see a figure in the distance. A woman, walking slowly, limping. Was it a relative? A fan? Or someone else who knew Lucas in a way no one had ever realized? No one could say, but the flowers never stopped. Before his death in prison from an untreated infection, Lucas requested to speak to a prison chaplain. The chaplain recorded the final conversation, later released in a documentary. Lucas spoke plainly, slowly, without emotion. "They made me invisible. I wanted to make them unforgettable. And I did, didn't I? But then, something unexpected. I wish I had just gone to the door, knocked. Maybe Anna would have let me in. I didn't want to kill her. I wanted her to say my name." 5 years after Lucas's death, a new document was found in the prison warden's files. Lucas had written his own will. He left everything he had, prison wages, sketches, journals, to Anna. A final note read, "You're the only one who ever saw me. You survived me. That makes you stronger than I ever was." Anna never spoke about it publicly. She took the will, burned it, and buried the ashes in the Cedar Hill garden. Then she whispered only 2 words, "Goodbye, brother." 3 years after Hope was born, Anna began to notice strange static in her daughter's baby monitor. At first, she dismissed it, old wiring, interference. But one night, the static formed a voice, barely audible, a whisper, "You were always mine." Anna ripped the plug from the wall. Forensic techs later examined the device. No signs of remote access, no bugs, no tampering. But the voice, captured on recording, matched Lucas Dean's vocal profile. Lucas may have died, but his presence lingered. Someone or something was keeping his memory alive online. A private forum surfaced on the dark web called The Red Garden. Its only purpose, to archive every moment of the Grant murders, photos, blueprints, journal entries, and fan theories. What disturbed Michael most? The site's banner was a quote from Anna's memoir. "Some inherit money, others inherit madness." A former NSA analyst, contracted to investigate the Red Garden site, traced its origin to a high school in Pennsylvania. The admin, a 17-year-old girl named Lucy Cray, who claimed she was spiritually bonded with Lucas. She had read every word he wrote, knew every inch of the Grant estate. When questioned, she said, "He wasn't a killer, he was a message." Authorities shut the site down, but the damage was done. Lucas wasn't just remembered, he had become a myth. Construction crews renovating the trauma center discovered a sealed subbasement beneath the original house. Inside, old furniture, children's toys, dozens of newspaper clippings all about adoption, trauma, and legacy, and one journal, leather-bound, Charles Grant's initials. The entries grew darker over time. "There is something wrong in my bloodline. A rot. a crack in the stone. If the foundation is weak, do we build on it or bury it? One entry stood out. I should have killed it before it grew. He wasn't referring to Lucas. He was referring to himself. Anna was invited to speak at Oxford University, a keynote on legacy, justice, and inherited trauma. She began with a quote from her father's hidden journal. "We don't choose the blood we're born with, but we choose what we leave behind." Then, for the first time, she spoke publicly about her darkest moment, the night in the cellar when she considered taking her own life, just to escape Lucas. Silence filled the auditorium. Not a single cough, not a breath. When she finished, the room erupted in a standing ovation. She had turned pain into power. Emily, forever quiet after the murders, vanished from the public eye. Years later, a true crime blogger tracked her to a monastery in rural France. She had taken a vow of silence and lived among Benedictine nuns. But she kept one item in her cell, a photo of the Grant family before the fall. When asked why she left everything behind, her answer was written in a letter. Peace is not forgetting. It's learning to live alongside ghosts. Michael had become a champion for forgotten children, those born into abuse, neglect, and systems that failed them. But his last case shattered him. A 14-year-old boy who murdered his foster parents after years of silent, systemic torture. During sentencing, the boy looked at Michael and said, "No one wanted me until they were dead." Michael froze. It was Lucas's story, all over again. For the first time, Michael wept in court. At the Cedar Hill Trauma Center, Anna built something radical, a room where survivors could sit and write letters to their abusers, their tormentors, or even their past selves. No one read the letters. No one judged them. One day, Anna sat down, wrote two. The first was to Lucas. She ended it with, "You broke me, but I rebuilt stronger." The second was to herself. "You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose after." 10 years after the murders, a documentary crew asked Anna to do one last on-camera interview. The host asked, "If you could rewrite one moment, what would it be?" Anna paused, her fingers clutching the locket around her neck, the one with a photo of her mother. "I'd open the door," she whispered. "When Lucas came that first night, I wouldn't welcome him, but I'd listen. Maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have chosen war." At the edge of the Cedar Hill property, Anna planted an orchard, one tree for every family member lost. She let hope choose their names. Brave tree for Charles, kind tree for Eleanor, laughing tree for David. And for Lucas, Hope called it shadow tree. When asked why, she said, "Because shadows mean there's still light somewhere." And in that moment, Anna realized something profound. Lucas's story didn't end with murder or madness. It ended with a choice, not by him, but by those he left behind, to break the cycle, to plant something new, to rise. Construction on the final Cedar Hill restoration wing unearthed a sealed chamber beneath the west wing. No architectural plans mentioned it. Inside, a single wooden chair, a bare light bulb, and a wall covered in childlike handwriting, all in red crayon. The writings were fractured sentences, repeated phrases. "I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Don't lock me away again. You promised." DNA tests on the room revealed a chilling truth. Lucas had been imprisoned here as a child, before the state ever took him. Before the system failed him, Charles Grant did. Eleanor Grant, once seen as the stoic matriarch, had always appeared innocent, polished, unaware. But among Charles's hidden journals, Michael found letters Eleanor had written but never sent. One to the social worker investigating Lucas. "He is dangerous. He hurts animals. He watches Anna sleep. We are afraid." Another to her priest. "I've done something unholy. We took a boy we should have loved, and instead, we buried him alive in our silence." Eleanor knew. She hadn't been ignorant. She had been complicit. At age 8, Anna's daughter Hope began drawing disturbing images. A boy with no eyes standing in the orchard. A house on fire with people inside. A shadow holding her hand, whispering, "Family is forever." Anna panicked. Was it inherited trauma? Some twisted echo of Lucas? A child psychologist reviewed the sketches. She's processing memory, but not her own. She's processing yours. Hope was reliving the pain that Anna never spoke aloud. Because trauma doesn't just echo, it transfers. Among Lucas's confiscated belongings was a single, overlooked composition notebook. It was titled simply, "The Other Family." Inside were pages of invented stories, complete fictions, about a family where he was loved, where Charles taught him to fish, where Eleanor baked cookies, where Anna called him Big Brother, where David was never born. Because in that world, Lucas was enough. Each story ended the same way, and they smiled, because no one was missing. During legal proceedings following the estate's transformation, a clerk stumbled on a sealed envelope left in the original vault. It was titled, "Addendum to the Last Will and Testament of Charles Grant." Inside was a handwritten note. "If Lucas returns, give him this instead of money." Attached was a single page, a family photo, all of them smiling, Lucas included, from a long-forgotten afternoon when he was 7. The note continued, "Money cannot repair what I've broken, but perhaps memory can." It was the only time Charles had called him son. An elderly woman visited Cedar Hill one fall morning. Quiet, pale, dressed in black. She claimed to be Lucas's foster mother from a brief 6-month period before he was returned to the state. She held a tin box. Inside were a tiny toy car, a wrinkled napkin with "Happy Birthday, Lucas" written in pink, a letter he wrote to her, "Thank you for tucking me in." Tears ran down her cheeks. He was gentle once. He didn't have to become that man. Then she left. No name, no return address, just a trail of regret. One wall at the trauma center had been left intentionally blank, a symbolic space for unresolved grief. But one morning, an ornate golden frame appeared on the wall overnight. Inside, a pencil sketch, Anna, Lucas, and Hope, holding hands. No signature, no witnesses. Security cameras showed only static between 3 o'clock and 3:33 a.m. Forensics confirmed the sketch paper was over 10 years old, and the pencil's pressure matched Lucas's prior artwork. He had drawn it long before he died, long before Hope was born. 1 month before the 10-year memorial, Anna received a letter from someone who claimed to have survived one of Lucas's earlier, undocumented crimes. They'd never spoken publicly, never reported it, but the letter read, "He came to my home, said he was lost. I fed him. He slept on my couch. He cried in his sleep, and in the morning he was gone. But he left a note. You were kind, so I let you live. Not all monsters kill. Some choose not to. And in that, we glimpsed the war inside them." Michael commissioned a sculpture to honor the family, not just the Grants, but everyone affected by the legacy. It wasn't a statue. It was a tree made of iron. Twisting branches, broken roots, shattered glass for leaves. Each leaf bore a name: Charles, Eleanor, David, Anna, Hope, Lucas. At the base, a plaque. All branches matter, even the broken ones, because ignoring them doesn't erase the past. It just ensures it repeats. On the 10th anniversary of the murders, Anna stood in the Cedar Hill orchard. Hope played nearby. A reporter asked, "Do you believe in redemption?" Anna looked at the orchard. Trees blooming, fruit bearing, wind weaving between branches. "I don't believe in monsters anymore," she said. "Just people, broken people. Some of them run from the dark. Some become it, and a few try to plant something better." She touched the shadow tree, Lucas's tree, and whispered, "You're remembered, but you don't get to define us anymore." Anna received a strange, unsigned email. Subject, "You missed one." Attached was a blurry photo of a man who looked exactly like Lucas, standing at a gas station in Wyoming. The timestamp? 2 days ago. Impossible. Lucas was dead, buried, confirmed by DNA. Unless someone else survived Cedar Hill. Michael launched an investigation. Through adoption records sealed in 1987, he uncovered a bombshell. Charles and Eleanor had another child before Lucas. A boy surrendered at birth. Name redacted. That child was never tracked again. But DNA linked him to the Grants and to Lucas. Twins, separated at birth. Lucas had a brother, one who had watched everything unfold from the shadows. Security footage showed the same man in a red jacket leaving flowers at the shadow tree in the middle of the night. He moved with familiarity, touched the trunk like an old friend, but when investigators searched the grounds, he vanished, like a ghost walking through his own memories. Anna, plagued by the idea of Lucas having a twin, began to spiral. Had they been watching the wrong brother all along? Had Lucas taken the fall for his twin's crimes? Psychological profiles showed inconsistencies. Lucas was intelligent, methodical, emotionally explosive, but certain early crimes, arson, animal mutilation, didn't match his MO. They were sloppier, crueler. Someone had taught Lucas how to survive and how to kill. A retired caseworker sent over old documents. Inside was a behavioral assessment on Child X, the twin. It listed chilling red flags, fire setting, lying about injuries, making other children disappear from playgroups. The report ended abruptly, signed in red ink. This one is worse than Lucas. Much worse. It was never filed, because Charles Grant paid to make it disappear. Anna traveled to Wyoming with Michael, following the red jacket lead. At a remote roadside diner, a waitress whispered, "You're not the first one looking for him. He comes in, orders coffee, doesn't speak, but he leaves these." She handed Anna a napkin. Drawn on it, hope, holding hands with a shadow. They found him that night, near a frozen creek, standing alone, staring at the water. He looked just like Lucas. Same eyes, same voice, but colder, hollow. He smiled. "I wondered how long it'd take you to find me." Anna asked, "Why now?" "Because unfinished stories itch, and I've got one more chapter to write." Then he vanished into the trees. Back in Cedar Hill, mysterious items began appearing. A broken compass, a bloodstained chess piece, a VHS tape marked "For Her." The tape played grainy footage of Lucas, begging someone to stop. "He's going too far. I can't hold him back." The voice off camera, calm, icy. "That's the point. You're the mask. I'm the face." The twin, now identified as Levi Dean, had orchestrated the chaos. Lucas wasn't the monster. He was the decoy, the guilt-ridden brother trying to keep Levi at bay. The murders at Cedar Hill? Lucas planned the break-in, but Levi executed the most brutal parts, then let Lucas die, taking the fall. Anna and Michael devised a plan. They leaked false information about a new exhibit opening at the trauma center. The truth about Lucas Dean. On the opening night, a red-jacketed man entered, unarmed, alone. But as he walked toward the shadow tree, the orchard lit up. Dozens of silent survivors stepped out from the shadows. Among them, the diner waitress, the old caseworker, even the widow. Levi stopped, smiled. Finally, an audience. In custody, Levi confessed everything. Calmly, proudly. "Lucas was weak. I sharpened him. He only mattered because I shaped him." But his biggest mistake? Recording everything. Flash drives were found in a storage unit. Detailed plans, journal entries, and recordings from the night of the murders. It was Levi who slit David's throat. Levi who forced Lucas to obey. The trial of Levi Dean became national news. Prosecutors painted him as a master manipulator, a ghost who turned grief into theater. Anna testified, "You tried to erase us, but you only made our roots grow deeper." The jury deliberated for just 2 hours. Verdict: guilty. Sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences, 1 for each life taken. No chance of parole. For the first time in a decade, the orchard was silent. No static, no footsteps, no red jackets, just trees, blooming, healing. Hope buried a small box under the shadow tree. Inside was the sketch of her, Lucas, and Anna. "He wasn't all bad," she whispered. Anna published her second memoir, Rootbound, a story of survival, blood, and bloom. It became a bestseller, not because of the violence, but because of the hope, because of the truth. We inherit more than money. We inherit wounds. But healing, too, can be passed down. 10 years after Cedar Hill burned, Hope planted a new tree. She called it the Justice Tree. Underneath it, survivors gathered once a year, not to mourn, but to testify, to reclaim, to declare that even from ashes, we rise. Anna looked on, her hand on Hope's shoulder, and for the first time since that terrible night, peace finally took root. Stay tuned for more chilling cases on Cold Case Chronicles, where the truth is always darker than fiction. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case Chronicles. We dive deeper into the most chilling, unsolved mysteries, and together, we uncover what was left behind. Like, share, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. The truth never rests.